about it, I'm beginning to get bored. But anyway, 2 days ago, the news came out from Russia that Russia's seeking to expand its army by 10%, and it is the army, not the air force, not the navy, because NATO analysts estimate that the Russians have lost about 80,000 soldiers killed, wounded, captured, or missing in this conflict. Actually, very few captured, about 1,000, and desertions. There doesn't appear to be a significant scale of desertions yet. The morale is really collapsing. More will desert and more will surrender. Let's talk about Kherson being forced to surrender, but at the moment I don't see it happening. Not soon anyway. So NATO analysts think that they've lost about 80,000. The original invasion force was 200,000. Obviously, more have been sent to replace those who've been killed, wounded, captured, or those who've just been allowed to come home for a bit of R&R. Because they're moving forward at a snail's pace, Russia. They've been pushed back in other places. To think they believe they would take Kiev in 3 days. In fairness, a lot of Western pundits thought they'd take it in 3 days. I didn't think they'd take Kiev quite so soon. I thought it took like a fortnight, but I thought they would definitely take the Ukrainian capital. I was dead wrong. And so it shows that experts, of whom I'm not one, can be very badly wrong. Just think Afghanistan a year ago. Very few people thought the Taliban would take over instantly. Anyway, so they're desperately trying to replenish the soldiers whom they've lost. And so there was Russian men between the age of 18 and 27 do 1 year of compulsory military service, unless they go to university, which in case they do far less, or they're permanently medically unfit. If you're wealthy, you could bribe a doctor to certify you permanently unfit for military service. And so, I mean, I knew a lot of wealthy Russian boys at Oxford, not one of whom had done his military service because it was so horrific. The bullying, severely beaten up, dozens of them killed by their own army every year, dozens of them driven to suicide. Now it's not as bad anymore, but you want to avoid it if you can. Anyway, so having done your 1 year military service, you can then sign a contract to be a soldier for about 5 years. About two-thirds of the soldiers are conscripts. So it takes 6 months to do basic training. They do a year. By the time they're decent soldiers, they leave. So a lot of the professional soldiers, they're spending their time training the newbies who are then going to leave the army. They're coming back to do a 5 year contract. But you can do contracts of as little as 3 months these days. But they're offered a salary of $5,700 a month, which is huge in Russian standards, which wouldn't be bad where I live either, actually. And but will they actually be paid with that? The Russian government lies about everything. Some people say they don't get paid anything like that in the end because that is so much more. The minimum wage is now at $200 a month. So they're trying to get a volunteer battalion from every one of the 84 federal subjects of Russia, all the regions, autonomous republics, and so forth. Wagner Group, which is a private military company, they're trying to send their fighters there as well. They're mercenaries, really. Most of them are Russian army veterans. Some are Belarus and some are Serbian. They've been going into prison, saying that if you sign a contract, you'll be released and do this. But I mean, President Putin himself has not said anything about it. Because it would reflect that the war is going badly. There are too many people who need to be replaced. This is going on far longer than anybody thought it was going to. So they want another 137,000 soldiers. This is going to happen by New Year's Day 2023. And the government hasn't explained why they need to do so. Well, it's blatant. Now, since the Russian Federation was founded in 1991, the number of soldiers has gradually reduced. It's meant to be a more professional, better trained, better equipped army. You see how that's worked out. Although in 2017, they did increase the size of the army a little bit, partly because they're fighting in East Ukraine, and partly because Putin was looking for when the ideal opportunity would be to try and seize the rest of Ukraine. He obviously ran down the oil and gas, so drive up the prices high, make the West very dependent, very jittery, so he thought. The economy was a bit brittle after COVID, seemed to be the ideal opportunity. Trump was gone, okay, Biden was there, so there was no fairly good relationship with Russia to try and protect, and went ahead for it. But Putin might be old, might be dying. That was not the right reason why he did it when he did. The timing. Anyway, so the increase of 137,000 is meant to be soldiers, not civilians working for the military. But Russia claims to have armed forces of over 1 million full-timers, but Western analysts say it's more like 900,000. They lie about everything, including this. They're not so numerous, not so well equipped as they claim. Their weapon systems are not as good as they claim, are not as fast, and have quite a long range as they claim. They lie about everything. It's just a question of how much they're lying. Anyway, so this is obviously not terribly popular. He doesn't want to declare this a war and call for a general mobilization because he knows that would be too unpopular. In a war, many have been jailed, can face up to 15 years. Others have got ruinous fines. The Russian prosecutor general claimed they blocked or deleted 138,000 websites since the war began. Yeah, 138,000. That's how severe censorship is, keeping people in ignorance. Because if they knew the truth, they wouldn't allow this war to go on. So their manpower is a real headache for Russia. Because yes, you need equipment and all that, but you also need numbers to actually occupy the territory you're seeking to subjugate. Some soldiers are refusing to fight or whatever. They say that people said that some units have fought each other, but I don't know of any actual examples of that. Supply lines also a big problem. So now there's been no Russian statement of their casualties since late March, since the war been going for under a month, when they said that 1,351 of their soldiers had been killed. Now, the fact they haven't said so, given any casualty update since then, is telling. So that was after not quite a month of war. We've had just over 6 months of war. So if you multiply that by 6, then what figure would you get? So you get the multiply the 1,000 by 6, you get 6,000. Multiply, we'll call it 300 by 6. So what are you going to get? Come on, you can tell me. 1,800. So 7,800 rounded up is 8,000. I mean, it's more like 9,000. Bear in mind, you have to multiply the 51. And we're a bit over 6 months, and that was a bit under a month when they gave the figure. So about 9,000 killed. If we go the same rate of people being killed, but there might be relatively few killed in April, for example, and a lot more killed in July. I don't know. But to be a NATO analyst think it's at least 15,000 killed, something like 3 times as many wounded. Because remember, medicine is so good these days that a lot of people survive wounds that would have killed them in the old days. So Ukraine wants to build up a 1 million-man army. That's doable with 10 million military-age males. And a lot of economic life has stopped. Well, most economic life is going on as normal. Using open source materials, the names of over 5,000 Russian soldiers killed have been identified by various Western analysts, as in you look at media reports of funerals, social media posts, and so on. So it's obviously not looking good for Russia. And remember, people you'd want to join in their early 20s, really. They're not that many of them because, of course, you're looking back to people born in the early noughties when the fertility rate was quite low. In a few years' time, it does get a bit better because the Russian economy was picking up in the later noughties, around 2008. So there are more people of that age. Obviously, women can join, but they're a very small percentage of the Russian army. So it shows that they've got a real problem, but also that it looks like Russia's going to stay the course. They see this as something that's going to go on for months, years, probably, and have the manpower to fight that. So any idea that they're going to give up soon is, I think, false. There have been a few olive branches. The very fact they let the United Nations inspectors go to the Zaporizhia power plant is indicative that maybe they're willing to make concessions. Thank you so much for watching my channel. So please subscribe on Patreon, donate to me on PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com, and I help you with dissertations, essays, all sorts of assignments, theses, and so on, elocution lessons, online lessons, and all sorts of things. And I'm a tour guide in London. Goodbye.